This is Chris Hansen.
Chad doing Rip City Radio here.
This is Jamie Hudson.
This is TJ Houshmandzada.
And I'm going to let y'all know something.
You're listening to
It Just Makes Sense.
It just makes sense.
We are sports. We are nostalgia. We are pop culture. And we're funny sometimes.
I think overall we're just a good time.
They thought we couldn't do it. But guess what?
We're back.
Podcasts are free, and we can do whatever the hell we want.
Yeah.
We never knew what we were doing in the first place.
Yeah, that is a good point.
Anyone who knows me knows that I've never had a meatball that I didn't love.
What about you guys? You ever met a meatball that you didn't like?
I have.
Both in person.
He's sitting on the other side of the couch. It really just shows how hard it is to win a parlay.
Oh,
Unless
there's
you're-
a guy in jail that
unless you're
wins
in
20
jail.
grand. This is going to be a roller coaster of emotions. They are going to eat each other alive in the Pac-12.
You can have these top caliber quarterbacks, but if you bring them to an organization where they're not going to benefit their skills and abilities,
Right.
then it's not going to work out.
And who are we
Speaking of
to
losing,
call people out on losing bets, okay? We suck at betting.
And remember, don't be afraid to fade yourself.
propose your question again into the mic, please.
Would you rather make out for 5 minutes with John Gruden or Dable? You don't have to finish.
Well, it was just a makeout, right? I would want the John Gruden critique. Oh, wait, but that's Chris Collinsworth. Like, here's a guy.
It's not going to be.
I don't get a critique
Judge,
afterwards. I don't get like a
just make out
full
in
play
private.
breakdown.
I tell you what, man. I'll tell you what. That was a good smooch.
That was good smooch.
It's John
Tell you what,
Gruden,
man.
not Scarface.
That's what John Gruden
That's
sounds
what
like.
he sounds like. That was actually pretty good.
I tell you what, man.
I'll tell you what, man.
The
Tony-
Whiskey Tango
Tony
Foxtrot.
Montana.
Would you say that your costume a couple years ago for Halloween was one of your better ones? Where you shaved your face and you were, what's his bucket?
Tony Soprano.
Tony
Yeah.
Montana.
I mean, it was good. I mean, I don't think that I really looked a lot like him. But I think I embodied him.
You did.
You're not Italian.
I'm not Italian.
You're not Italian. Is it bad? And that's generally how when you start with a question. One year I was Flavor Flav. Is that allowed? Like, should I have not been Flavor Flav? That was
That's
during-
appropriation.
That was what I was wondering. I
Well,
was like,
what color was your skin when?
very white. I stayed white.
Okay.
But what I did
Then-
was I was able to rig a bunch of like Mardi Gras beads with a gigantic clock, and I got like a robe.
No,
and,
I think that's
and I
okay.
put like
Ask him where he was to celebrate
I was in
Halloween.
college
So you were Flavor Flav in Eugene,
in Eugene, yeah.
redneck capital of Oregon.
I don't know about that, but
So yeah, so there you go. What about you? What's your most memorable costume?
Why
one?
did you just dig yourself a hole?
Why did I dig
Just
Miguel's had a lot of good costumes.
By good, he means very bad. And really,
Zombie
it's-
Hooters waitress is
They were like
good.
so bad they're good type
yeah.
costumes.
I mean, like, really, Halloween is your time to cross-dress.
Yeah, I've always, the last few years, I've been a woman. The Zombie Hooters waitress.
You make a cute girl.
not really.
If he shaved, but it's
The
good.
WAP. I was partnered up with Wet Ass
Right.
Pussy, so I had this. I had the Nicki Minaj. Is it Cardi B? It's Cardi B.
and Megan Thee Stallion.
Yeah, so I had the leopard dress with the nails and the hair. But I've also had a lot of insensitive.
Insensitive ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was radio,
Oh, sure.
Cuba Gooding Jr.
That's not good.
at a party. I was Michael Vick's best friend, so I was a beat up dog that year.
Oh,
that was.
gosh.
I mean, those are my early 20s days. Like,
Right.
I wasn't thinking.
Yeah, well, Okay. Yeah, I'm not
The
going to
wor-
be the one that cast first.
I'll
stone
tell
on
you
that
the worst one.
All right.
I didn't want to go out for Halloween. This was at school. So ASU, you go to Mill Avenue, everyone's out. And roommates were trying to convince me to come out. And I really didn't want to. So I put together a 5-minute costume, which was a pope. So I took the shower curtain, shower rod as my whatever you call that, and a hat.
Scepter? Scepter.
And then I made the Pope hat out of a pillowcase.
Right.
That, before leaving the apartment, that looked like a Pope costume.
Yeah, right.
But we're walking down Mill, and the guy that was working at a restaurant, a black dude, was taking out the trash, and he sees me, and I'm smoking a fucking Black and Mild, and he goes, "Bro, what the fuck?" And I'm like, "What?" I thought I was like burning the fucking sheet, and he's like, "Man, why would you dress like that?" And I'm like the fucking Pope?
I'm the Pope.
He goes, "Like the Klan." And I'm like, "I'm not a fucking Klan member." And then I take off the hat, and he goes, "Look at it again." And I'm like, yeah, the hat looked like a Klan hat.
Right.
You
The
left the-
sheet.
You left the house as the Pope, came home a Klansman.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I
was
mean,
bad.
the
Grand Wizard.
The scepter is really the only thing that differentiates you from a Pope and a Klansman, apparently.
And not really. Not
I
really.
suppose
The
so,
KKK loves a good scepter.
So,
It would have been trouble if that was a white person underneath there. He's like,
Yeah. Thankfully, it was a big Filipino guy.
ugh.
it is
But,
baffling how many people run their way into inappropriate costumes that they have to apologize for later on. Like,
Yeah.
just like the sheer level of blackface from, like, every
Justin
politician.
Trudeau.
Yeah, right? It's just kind of like, oh, I didn't know. Huh, all right. Cool.
Did you see, speaking of Flavor Flav, though, did you see his national anthem?
I saw that he had sung
I
it.
watched like 10 seconds of it.
Real-
I didn't know if it was good or bad.
That. Well, again, that's kind of
You know, on the scale of Fergie to Whitney Houston, you know, it was
Halfway.
about right in the middle.
Listen, whenever
Okay, so-
we have the opportunity to start the show with a national anthem, I think that we should.
So he wore 59.
Oh, say,
Double clutched it.
can you see by the dawn?
Oh, man, take the over on this one.
Early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad strides
on.
and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming.
Yeah, I love it.
And the rockets red flare, the bombs burst, stinging
Is he
in
snapping?
the
Yeah.
The what beat?
Yeah.
air, gave proof to
The snapping is
night that our flag
Hard snap.
was still there.
Rolo
Oh,
is
say,
disheveled.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
does that star
The ending is
He's running out of breath.
banner yet wave.
gonna pass out. You can do it.
Oh, the land of the
Go
free.
falsetto, Flav.
And the home
He's got lip sweat.
of the brave. Of the brave.
One more time.
Of the brave.
Woo!
Flavor Flav.
I mean, yeah, I'd probably give it a 3
There's,
out of 10.
There's definitely been worse.
There's
Yeah,
definitely been worse. Nothing will hold a candle to Fergie. Yeah, he
but-
got super sweaty at the end of that.
Yeah.
He had to double clutch, cock back. He was ready to go.
Yeah, hitting the snaps. Not very often do you see the snaps come in.
Yeah,
during
not
the
very
national
often do
anthem.
you see snaps during
The
a
snaps are great.
Star-Spangled Banner. Not very often do you see snaps during the Star-Spangled Banner.
Of the Brave times 3 for
Yeah.
master ending.
I wonder how many photos there are of Flava Flav wearing a giant clock on his chest,
Right.
but checking his watch.
Sure. Yeah.
A little
The man-
redundant.
Over 15.
Do you ever actually check the time on your watch?
Oh, all the time.
Really? Actually?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
It's not just an accessory.
No.
I think if you're a watch wearer, you check it that way. I don't wear watches.
Dude, I want to get myself a Breitling someday. I know exactly the type. I'm not a big watch guy, but I'm going to go right for the $6,000 watch. That's the right move.
You know,
that's how you know.
In the world of watches,
That's not that much.
That's not
Yeah.
incredibly high. That's a good,
Modest.
mid to lower mid tier watch,
Yeah.
expense wise.
Yeah, I fell in love with it when I was on my honeymoon. We were in St. Thomas, and they always have like those really upscale places to try and rip you off with jewelry, and I was falling for it. I was like, maybe I should do it.
Getting
Do
a
it, Pete.
$6,000 Breitling, that's like you wanted to get a Range Rover and you walked away with an Audi.
I just walked away is what I ended up doing. Or
Sounds
a
like a
PT
great-
Cruiser.
Sounds like a great anniversary gift.
How about a birthday gift? That's what you guys got me for my birthday.
Yeah,
Pete,
$3,000
come on.
each for a Breitling watch.
Let's lower expectations a little bit. I don't want you to cry on your birthday.
All right, sounds good. Well,
Mom's spaghetti.
maybe at least you can get me some Mom's spaghetti. This moment from Monday Night Football tickled me a little bit.
Iconic "Lose Yourself" song. We've got another Lions game coming up late in the year, Week 17. We'd like to catch up with Eminem for that one before that game. That looks fantastic. Anyone who knows me knows that I've never had a meatball that I didn't love.
What about you guys? You ever met a meatball that you didn't like?
I have.
Both in person.
He's sitting on the other side of the couch.
I was going to say, meatball could mean a number of things, both food and person.
First of all, that was spaghetti in a Chinese takeout box.
yeah, that was Mom's spaghetti
like
right
that.
there.
Yeah.
That's how you do
I've
it.
heard
Convenient.
it's very good.
I like it.
Would you rather have Mom's spaghetti or the $250 beef shank that they're serving
beef
at the
shank.
Super Bowl?
Because there's a 2-foot-long hot dog on
That's
that
true.
one.
That's just like the nice
a
little
whole
dessert
package.
afterwards. You saw that, right?
No.
You didn't see this beef shank? Hold on one second. Talk amongst yourselves.
So do you see the beef shank?
No, I didn't.
All right, let's look up the beef shank. Oh, maybe it's only $99, but
The
still.
beef shank.
Look at this beef shank that.
It looks fake.
Yeah. It comes as your World Series meal.
The Heimhammer?
And it comes with a 2-foot. Yeah, the Heimhammer comes with that behemoth. And then, I don't know what else. You said the 2-foot long hot
Oh,
dog,
it's
too?
$99. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a hot dog and a hamburger that are both tubes. The burger is like a hot dog.
Yeah. I would probably still just I hate spaghetti, so I would go with the beef shank. I would go with the beef shank. But seriously, who's coming up with these things? I feel like that's just like the shtick of MLB stadiums these days. It's just like things that are so unreasonable. You know, they have those like gigantic milkshake things or whatever. But like, say you get that on like a hot day, that thing is melting so much
Gotta
before
drink it quick.
it's so sticky, and you're never getting it for yourself. You know, your kid will take 2 bites
Why
of
would
it.
sticky
and
be a problem? You're not pouring it on yourself.
Well, no, I mean, it's going to melt all over your hands, and you're going to have little sticky hands. You want to
It's
be
got
sticky
handles.
hands?
You're gonna have little sticky hands.
Sticky hands.
You want to be sticky hands?
Power move. Would you eat that at your seat, or would you eat that at the table?
I think I'd bring that to the seat. Why not? I'm there for the game.
That looks
You want to
very
make friends with
saucy.
your entire row? You take a bite,
A
you
little
pass it
courtesy
down.
bite. Take a bite,
Take
pass
a bite,
it down.
pass it down.
That's the beef shank at the
Speaking of
Rangers game.
eating in solitude and shame, today I took the train back
Yes.
from Seattle. I went up for the football game, and I was traveling with Naoko in Austin, and I was hungry. We didn't get any breakfast, so I went to like the little cafe cart, and I just decided to get myself one of those disgusting microwave
Pre-wrapped burgers.
burgers. And instead of going back to my seat where they could see me watch it or see me eat it,
You
I
ate
st-
it
I
in
s-
shame on
I
the
stood between two cars,
and
and just shoveled it into my mouth.
yeah, it was like if you're not going to the bathroom to eat it, then between 2 cars is
Yeah.
probably the next spot
Yeah.
for sure.
I don't think the flavor of it is that bad. I hate that the microwave bun is like disgusting.
yeah.
I was just like, you can taste it the rest of your day every time you
You
burp.
burp, yeah.
It's like, oh fuck.
It's
this.
the
And you
what do you call
survived.
that? The processed meat that you get at like TV dinners, because that's what the patty tastes like.
Yeah, like a
Like
Salisbury,
a Salisbury
steak.
Yeah,
steak.
and I like that.
Oh, sure.
Of course you do.
Big ol' hungry mans. Well, let's see. There was a story from last week that I did not bring up because we were kind of running late on time. But as the headline goes, there was a man who was arrested for faking 20 different heart attacks in order to avoid paying a dinner bill that he had racked up.
Did we not talk about this?
I don't think we talked about it. No, we did not talk about it.
I talked about this with somebody.
Yeah, you might. So a Lithuanian man arrested for faking 20 different heart attacks. 50-year-old. Let's see. Anyways, so he hasn't had to fake a heart attack in order to. But it wasn't.
I didn't get a
during
free
the-
meal out
he
of
didn't
it
get a
either.
free meal either.
You
no,
didn't
you had to pay for everything.
Rack up $800 at Applebee's and be like, dude, fuck this. I'm faking a heart attack. I'm
Yeah.
not you guys.
I'm sure if I racked up a bill of $800 at Applebee's, I would just have a real heart attack.
Like one.
Wonton tacos.
In your younger and poorer days, did you ever dine and dash, or has service ever been so bad that you just wanted to stiff someone with the bill?
No.
Never done that.
I don't think I have.
I haven't either.
Maybe like in
I've
high school.
considered it greatly.
Maybe. Yeah.
That has never crossed my mind to like have such bad service that I would raise hell or leave, because I didn't grow up privileged. So I always kind of looked what it would be like to be the other person. you know?
That they would have to actually pay for the entire thing. But I mean, if they're buttheads, then they.
I mean, someone tried to fight me. That's different. But
That's-
dine and dash, like that's never.
I
do it. Don't do
I
it.
would something I have done before is going into a restaurant and then like waiting for a to-go order to come up, and then when they like call the name and walk away, I just go up and grab it,
Oh, interesting.
and it's not mine. So in that sense, kind of, but
Yeah.
somebody else already paid for
Do
it.
you look at the receipt to see what's in the bag?
And you're like, this isn't what I ordered.
Why did Sam get this? I don't like this flavor.
Sam knows I don't like onions.
Yeah. How dare he?
But yeah, I don't think I've ever dined and dashed.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I've told this before. My stepdad was always kind of a dick to, like, fast food employees. And so I always was, like, traumatized by that. So I always wanted to make sure that I treated people well in those scenarios.
I guess lucky for me, I was never around anyone that was a dick to employees. But one of my uncles loved just pulling a quick one over people, and he didn't do it out of like rage. It was just like, it'd be cool if I can do this every fucking time I have a chance.
God.
So like I remember seeing him. This was like I was a teenager, and he would take a bite out of a Taco Bell burrito. We'd be in Taco Bell, and he'd take a bite out of the burrito. And he's like, I'm just gonna tell him I didn't want tomatoes, because I know they'll let me have this one, and then they'll give me a new one. And that was just like a habit. He just did that shit all the time. He didn't give the minimum wage worker any shit for it. He would just say it like super nice. He's like, hey, I didn't want tomatoes in my burrito. Like, oh, I'm so sorry. Just keep that one or do whatever you want with it. We'll just make you another one. And he did that every fucking time, everywhere he went.
Just put it into the to-go bag.
Yeah, like everywhere he went, he would just do that shit. I'm like, Jesus, man, that's $1.
Yeah.
Just chill.
Yeah.
But also genius. Good for him.
It was actually.
And
I'm pissed because I would never do that. So.
And the thing is that like at Taco Bell or a place like that, it's like they're going to get paid the same no matter what. You're just taking money away from this huge corporation, and it's a very small percentage at that.
It would be different if he was a dick, but he's not. So, I'm like, okay, whatever.
Right. Just has to
your
remember
thing, just
where
don't
he
be an
does
asshole.
it, so he's not always easily recognizable when he does
He
that.
walks into a restaurant rubbing his hands together. He's like, ooh.
Yeah, but this guy, you got to be a repeat offender to get caught.
Right.
You know
20
what I mean?
times. Like, I mean, how many times?
Greed.
Yeah, how many
did
times
you
are the
forget?
paramedics? Are the paramedics ratting you out? How are you getting caught here?
Yeah, that's
Maybe it says in the article.
those
but I
damn
didn't bother to read
Lithuanians
it.
always getting crazy.
When he would claim to feel unwell, he would throw himself to the ground. It was very theatrical. He would pretend to faint, slumped himself over to the ground.
Is that a picture of him?
Yeah.
Is that him in the green?
Yeah, that's him pretending to have a heart attack.
I mean, it kind of looks like he is.
He takes a selfie while he's on the ground. Oh, I'm sick.
Guys, I'm dying. Somebody pay my tab.
I'm so dead.
No, you got to say it in the Lithuanian accent.
I don't know what that is.
Try
Come
it.
on, give it a try.
No, I
Just
I don't-
try.
You're the
I
best
don't
with
even know
accents.
where Lithuania.
Eastern European.
Oh gosh,
Think of Arvydas Sabonis.
I don't even know. I can't even think of what that would sound like. Go ahead, Miguel.
I don't even want to begin.
Go ahead, Miguel. You know you can do it.
You were just about to say Lithuania. He wasn't going to do the accent. He was just going to say the country.
I was just going to be like, I can't even start. Look at me. I'm dying.
You racist fuck.
It's not even. It was just me
Look
eating.
at me, I'm dying.
Yeah, all right, Arnold.
I'll be back.
That's how it goes. So, well, that's that. Tell me about. So, tell me about your trip to Seattle. You went and saw the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
You went and you took the train. We've already talked about the hamburger, but and it was part of a birthday present.
Yep, it was a birthday gift from Jer Bear. She got me the tickets and the train ticket she got me tickets to the game and a train ticket for my birthday, and it was a lot of fun. We on Saturday night went on a Halloween spooky ghost tour thing.
Nice.
But and I know that if you're running one of these tours, it's your job to talk and tell about these stories or whatever.
Gotcha. So it was a guided thing.
Yes.
Okay. It wasn't like a self-guided
Is
thing.
it like
or whatever.
I think you should leave skit? Do any of these fuckers
I was
jump out of the walls?
I was thinking about that the entire time. I just wanted to start saying jizz, cum, fat load of cum.
It's an adult tour, so you can say whatever you want. All right, then jizz, cum, fat load of cum.
But yeah, so similar to that. But the woman who was running it was like an over talker. And she did like a lot of so yeah. And then da-da-da-da, and then like, but then there was a lot of like fill words, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And I was like, this can't be your first time fucking doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's get through.
Speed it along. Were you walking?
Yes.
Segway?
No.
All right.
You don't walk on segways.
No. But I mean, it was
No,
a follow-up.
First of all, a ghost tour on Segways. Look, it seems
Run
hilarious.
away from the zombies.
and honestly,
Someone's not following the tour; they just go.
And honestly, it was like more of a historical tour of like just how many thousands of people have died during the late 1800s, early 1900s in Seattle.
Yes, shocker. People have died.
And boy, howdy, was there a lot. They gave us gum to put on the gum wall.
Oh, yeah.
So we did that. And one thing
Miguel licks the gum. I have pictures. Or you were close to, but
I liked it.
yeah, you might have licked it.
I don't like that.
It's how pandemics start.
But yeah, they remove the gum every year.
Every year?
Yes,
I guess
every
they
year
have to.
they remove it. And
Do they make one giant gumball? That'd
No.
be sweet.
but it's like 6 tons of gum that's removed.
That's why I
Which
want to
is-
see it.
Which is kind of crazy to think about how many people come through there and put the gum on the walls. But do you guys know why that started?
I don't know why. I'm sure I did at one point.
It's
but
the
I-
reason why the homeless thing in Seattle isn't as bad as Portland, because that's what they have them do.
What?
Homeless people remove the gum with their teeth.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's their
It
nutrients.
gives them something to eat.
No, so there's a theater right there because essentially in that alleyway was where Pike's Place Market used to be, but it
Gotcha.
kind of outgrew that space, and so now it has become a theater. And when the theater first opened during like the early 70s, they had a weird rule where you could not chew gum in their theater. You could bring drinks, you could have food, but no chewing gum. So kind of as a sign of rebellion, all the people standing in line waiting to get in for their concert would chew their gum and start sticking it to the wall.
All right.
And they didn't start removing it on a yearly basis until 2005. And when they took down, the first time they took down all that gum in 2005, it was like just piles upon piles. Like I said, tons and tons, literally thousands and thousands of pounds of gum.
I love a good history lesson from Braxton Tanner.
I try.
The Mars, the M&Ms, and all that.
Hey, I'm
If you
trying
haven't
to
listened to that.
keep this educational because
Yeah.
we don't offer a lot in this podcast.
We don't offer a lot of insight or education.
You could also take some from the way he tells stories, where we stay awake.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, I mean, Braxton is a very good storyteller, and he retains information where I'll go like, okay, yeah, there was a thing, and then I've forgotten half of it. But I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm the you would have had to be there guy.
But that's the best
I
part.
am absolutely you would have had to be there guy.
The best
when I
part
tell
is
a
though
story.
you get a history lesson from him, and then you tell that to other people, and it becomes twisted.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure there's been at least 10 people I've told the chocolate story to, but it's different candy bars.
Yeah. People
Just
were
makes
murdered.
no sense.
People were absolutely murdered.
The Snickers creator traveled to Maine and then ran into whoever created the
Shivved-
100 grand.
Shivved Mars.
Beat the
Fucked
shit
his
out of the
wife.
creator of Almond Joy. And they said, coconuts? Like, dude, this does not sound real.
Yeah.
Oh.
Does not sound
Yeah,
real
it was.
at all.
It was an educational experience, but not spooky.
And
You
then
wanted
did you
spook.
did you stop at bars then too?
No.
You didn't go to Alibi?
So it was just like a tour.
Yeah.
And then it didn't stop anywhere.
No.
Okay.
Dude,
I mean,
that-
it stopped at places that were significant to
Yeah,
the tour.
yeah.
But not like, okay, let's pop in here, grab a shot, and continue.
I got you.
That bar across from the gum wall, Alibi, it's
Yeah.
a great fucking
That
bar.
is a
It
great
is.
bar.
There's
Yeah.
you go to that bar and then you go down 3 flights of stairs and it's a fucking underground club.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like
And you
a-
can hear it from the bar. Like you'd be sitting at the bar, they're like, "Are they playing fucking Jackson 5
Yeah.
right now?" And you let that one slip, and they're like, and it's been a string of like R&B songs. I'm like, I'm gonna get down
Yeah,
there.
we're going down
And
there.
you go down there, and the DJ is just playing for like 7 people. Dancing.
Yeah,
I'm like,
to an
this is-
empty room.
This is where the fucking party is at.
Yeah.
It is pretty wild.
Oh.
the how loud the music is to the ratio of actual human beings in that room, but the DJ is all about it. I love it.
Another cool thing about that same alleyway a lot of the kind of alleyways in Seattle are made out of stone. They're like stone roads. But you'll notice that road specifically, all the stone is uneven and like asymmetrical.
Right.
And I guess
fuck you up after a night at Alibi. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's one of the steeper alleyways in Seattle as well. But basically, at Seattle's, the whole city was built of wood, and it was because it was obviously originally like a lumber town. And there was a terrible fire. The whole city burnt down to its base, essentially. So they call up their buddies in San Francisco. They're like, hey, we want to start rebuilding our city, but we want to use stone and rock and things that are more structurally sound. And so San Francisco says, boy, do we have a deal for you. We just had an earthquake that destroyed our city, so we'll send you all of our rubble. And that's why all those stones are asymmetrical and different, is because they are built literally with
San Francisco rubble.
Yes. And
Wow.
like, I guess 6,000 people died in that earthquake, and they like never took the bodies out from the rubble.
No way.
Yes. So it's
In San Francisco?
Yes. So it's reasonable to believe that there are still the remains of dead San Francisco
haunted.
people
It's haunted.
in the roads of Seattle.
I mean, I've been there many times late at night. No one's grabbed me.
Anybody finger your butt?
I usually
Ghosts do that shit.
ask
Ghosts
people to do that.
are
Ghosts
freaky
fucking
beasts.
love that shit.
They are spooky.
That's why they always go
individuals.
boo.
Yeah, exactly. Booty hole.
Yeah.
Okay, so enough of the fun facts. How was the game? And
You
how's
know-
Amar? Did Amar talk about me?
That's a no.
Okay, well, I'm sure he would. He just don't want to talk.
Yeah, I mean, Amar's great. He didn't come to the game, but he ended up going to British Columbia with his girlfriend on Saturday. But anyways, or on Sunday, excuse me. But yeah, the game was fun. The game was good. It was kind of
Had you sweating in the beginning?
yeah, and I told you earlier, but as soon as I didn't know the Seahawks were wearing those throwback jerseys, which are sick.
Yeah.
One of the greatest throwback jerseys
Yeah,
out
those
there.
90s ones or late 80s.
And as soon as they came out, I was like, oh, fuck, they're not going to lose in the, throwbacks on 90s Day. Montel Jordan performed at halftime. This is
Nice.
how we do it. It was fucking awesome. But, yeah,
Who raised a flag? Do you remember?
I don't.
Okay, that's fine.
But, yeah, the game started. Seahawks got off to a 14-0 lead, and I was like, this is going to be a long day. Like, they're just going to stomp the Browns, whatever. Which honestly probably would have been more preferred by the end of it. Because the Browns come back. They go into halftime. I think it's tied 14-14, or they're up 17-14, or they're down 17-14. And then they end up going up in the third quarter, and they keep that lead essentially. And then Seahawks come back in like the final minute. There's a minute 40 seconds left. They score in 60 seconds. And obviously, P.J. Walker, 45 seconds left. He's not the guy to do that.
Sure.
They go 4 and out real quick. I don't think they even completed a pass on that final drive to go for the win. So it was sad. And I've been to 4 Seattle games now, and people were hyped the fuck up.
You were
They're-
in full Browns gear?
Yeah.
Jara, too?
No, she's a Seahawks fan.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But there was a lot of Browns fans. They travel well. But boy, I've never been to a game. Well, I guess I've never been to a game where I'm wearing the opposing team's gear, so that makes sense.
But they weren't mean. People in Seattle weren't.
No, they weren't mean, but
You got heckled?
I heard it.
Yeah.
I definitely heard it.
Yeah.
Because there's this group of guys that were assumed I was from Ohio,
Sure. Why
and
not?
I'm thankful that I wasn't, because if anybody was sitting in that seat and was from Ohio, they would have been very offended.
What are they saying?
Some pretty bad stuff. Yeah, they were talking about how people from Ohio like, what's the word? Have sex with your family. Incest.
Yeah. That's low hanging fruit. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just a whole bunch of really shitty things. But I
Yeah.
never.
So they
tried-
were mean. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit, but not to me. It didn't affect me. They were saying it to me, but it
But
wasn't
not
about
to you. Yeah.
But yeah, and then we got back to the hotel, which was right by the stadium, the Silver Cloud Hotel, which was awesome. And we came out of the elevator, and there was this big group of like fans all in Seahawks gear, and the last dude, it was like a silent passing, and there was this one last dude in like the line of them getting into the elevator as I'm walking out, and he just goes, "Bro, I want to talk shit to you so bad right now." And I just started laughing. I was like, that's pretty funny.
Seahawks fans are alive. They're alive and well.
Yeah. But like,
First in the division.
But everyone more or less, like, you didn't see any of these gigantic fights or anything like that, right?
No, it was cordial.
That doesn't really happen there.
Yeah.
That's not the type
I mean,
of
it seemed,
crowd.
yeah, I suppose it just kind of happens everywhere.
it was cordial. Anything that was like said was mostly fair play. So
I don't think that's the stadium or the fan base that would get into a fight or a fight
all those
or
liberal
chaos.
cucks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really good time. It was beautiful weather, which I'm very, very thankful for.
And a good game.
Yeah, and it was a good game. Browns kept it close. Seahawks end up winning. And honestly, good for them. Come out in the throwback uniforms, have a fourth quarter, minute and a half left, game-winning drive. Good for them.
And you really, if you felt inclined to talk back, all you have to do is remind those fans about not giving it to Marshawn on the goal line.
Right.
Yeah.
That's something that's always going to sting.
Yeah, true.
Say it now. They'll hear it.
Hey, remember when you didn't give Marshawn the ball? Idiots. Got him.
Got him. Well, good for this guy is Will Levis, and they gave him the ball this past weekend. 4 touchdowns after being Malik Willis is pulled in the second quarter. And why are you so shocked here?
I'm listening to the story.
Oh, okay.
It's a great
I'm
story.
setting it up. Everyone knows what's happening. It's not that I said something wrong.
Maybe I don't look shit up ahead of the podcast, so I am organically surprised by the news.
Right.
That's
that
his
you
organic
host
surprise.
Yeah, that he
face.
hosts. Yeah, that he hosts he hosts a sports gambling podcast, and he's surprised about
Big
sports
fat load of
that
comment.
But anyways, Will Levis takes over the reins, does very well, and it strikes a lot of people to think whether or not this is the way that they should go. And
Well, I'm sure you saw the stats that Will Levis had, which is like 239 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, and like a 70% completion rate. Guess who had very, very similar numbers? I mean, to like a 5 passing yard difference, 4 touchdowns, 70% completion rate, and a win in their debut as a Tennessee Titans quarterback.
Marcus Mariota. Yeah.
So don't get too excited
Yeah,
about Mr.
Marcus
Levis
balled
yet.
out. Marcus's first pass, I think, was a 73-yard score or something like that.
Yeah,
I
because
remember
he's
that game.
the GOAT.
The best. But anyways, like when you guys think about that, I mean, I don't want to overanalyze or overreact. I mean, obviously, like Will Levis was probably on the scouting report, but I'm sure that they weren't like overly studying him. But I mean,
We're not prepared.
beginner's luck, or you think that he's a real deal?
It would be hard for him to be the real deal because I don't think Tennessee has a lot to help him with the wide receivers to throw to. He has Derrick Henry. He doesn't have that great of a line. I think it's different if you introduce somebody like him to like a Cowboys or the Eagles where you have a lot of surrounding help.
Mm-hmm.
So this could, I'm not going to say beginner's luck. Like clearly the dude can play, but how consistent can you be with that type of team around you?
Well, I imagine, too, that maybe Jimmy Garoppolo should take a beat from Will Levis and throw it to his star on Monday Night Football, where Jimmy Garoppolo targets Devontae Adams like 6 times, 7 times, overthrows him late in the fourth quarter that would have at least made it a game. Devontae Adams on the sidelines. He's throwing his helmet. He's saying that Jimmy Garoppolo is a little bitch, says the lip readers, and and he should be.
He's bad, dude.
Upset.
He's bad.
To, Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jimmy G is bad because who were we talking about last week or 2 weeks ago? Where you're like, well, yeah, he's not the best quarterback, but if you're not going to give him any fucking time, how is he ever going to get it to your receivers? Well, you watch Garoppolo tonight. He had time.
Yeah.
He
had
was back
time,
there 4
and Devontae
to
Adams
5
was
seconds.
open a lot.
And at halftime, Devontae Adams had 1 target, 0 receptions, 0 yards.
Yeah.
And he had time back there, so you can't blame it on the line. He was getting sacked because he was holding on to the ball for fucking 5 seconds.
He got sacked a lot, 6-7 times tonight. Just brutal.
That's him just holding on to it. Like, dude, what are you doing?
I mean, like, the trade deadline will have come and gone by the time
tomorrow,
this
right?
podcast. Yeah, so we're recording this on Monday night. The trade deadline will have come and gone, so we don't have that insight yet. It doesn't sound like that Devontae Adams or anyone is going to be traded from the Raiders. So, but still, I mean, it's just, how is that going to go for the rest of the year? You would think that, like, if you're at this stage in the year, if you're thinking maybe there's going to be a change in coaching or whatever, it sounds like maybe Josh McDaniels is I don't know. It sounds that he was going to keep his job, but who knows if they keep losing in these ways. So
Yeah, it seems like the Raiders kind of just don't have a lot going for them.
yeah, just no direction whatsoever there.
And I think it starts with McDaniels. I mean, I just don't think he's the guy. He's
Yeah.
a great OC, but as a head coach,
Proven time and time again that he's not the guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, we've talked about him possibly being the guy in the past, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like, he just always seems to be that name that keeps on coming up. And I know that the strategy for the Raiders, you hire a deputy GM from the Patriots, then you hire the offensive coordinator from the Patriots, like they were trying
and
to
the
be
backup
Patriot.
quarterback
Yeah,
from
the
the
Patriots. I mean, they were trying to be Patriots West. And
I don't think he's in the clear, but he's not my number one culprit in the Raiders. It's Jimmy G. I think
I think
they
there's
could
a lot
have
of
a
people
better record
responsible.
with McDaniels as the coach, but a different quarterback.
Yeah.
A different quarterback. I mean, you have enough weapons there with Myers and Renfro and Adams, and you have Jacobs in the backfield. Like, how are you doing this bad?
Yeah, for sure. And we're gonna talk. I want to talk about at the end of our NFL discussion, like which teams that, since we're reaching the halfway point, should just kind of like give up at this point. So I want your answers here in a little bit. But Kirk Cousins tearing his Achilles, such a bummer. You kind of knew it right away based off of his hobbling to the sidelines. The replays showed exactly the same way it did with Aaron Rodgers, where you just see that little snap go, and now there's another one of those teams where you think, is this a team that should just fire sell at this point and go, listen, there's no point in even trying?
I don't like that. I don't like the idea of we're not in week 14. Why would you tell a team to give up at 4-4 halfway through the fucking season? Why would you mail it in at 500 halfway through the season? That sounds stupid.
But you lose two of your biggest weapons in Justin Jefferson and
So you mail it in?
But I just
Maybe.
think I don't think it's necessarily like giving it up, but just being kind of realistic with your with your opportunities. I mean, who do you think they could bring in and just kind of keep up immediately?
I mean, they got Sean Mannion back there.
I had heard that
Exactly my point.
That there was a possibility that Jameis Winston was on the trade block, but again, by the time this is being viewed, we will know the outcome of whether or not they will make that move. But I do think that there's kind of like, guys inherently won't give up. And I mean, we're seeing that from bad teams around. I mean, we'll talk here in just a moment about the Cardinals and how they backdoor covered that game. But I mean, they're still kind of feisty. Still, when you think about like assessing where you are at, yeah, you can get to maybe the first round of the playoffs, but I mean, like, can you just start thinking about how can we develop and get a better guy with better draft stock? I mean, you certainly have to pick the right guy, but I mean,
But
when you lose your quarterback,
like, did you have that same opinion with the Niners last year, with Purdy coming in with enough weapons around him?
I mean, that was like game 2, though, wasn't it? I mean, he comes in, so Trey Lance goes down, and then Purdy comes in.
My point is,
Purdy didn't come in until like the NFC Championship.
Well, no, he was a little bit earlier.
He was
than that.
earlier
Who,
than that.
didn't they go to their third string? Maybe I'm thinking of a different guy.
Yeah, I mean, like they ended up going to a third string. Who then was it? Josh Johnson, who then went out, and then he got knocked out too.
Yes.
But like, if we're talking about the Panthers, which a team has nothing going on, and you can't even name the players there, I can see mailing it in the plan for the draft or whatever. But you have Jefferson coming back in 2 or 3 weeks. You have Jordan Addison. You have KJ Osborne. You have TJ Hawkinson. I would never ask that team to mail it in.
Yeah, and I don't think that they will probably, because I think that they've won enough at this point already where it's like, hey, we're not going to get the first pick in the draft. We're probably not going to get, one of the first couple because they have those weapons, and because football is the sport where everybody's playing for their jobs. It's not like as a head coach you can be like, okay, everybody don't play so hard.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these guys, they need to keep playing and performing well to make sure that they get paid next year and the year after
And
that
bonuses.
and so forth. Exactly. So I think it's hard for any team in the NFL to quote unquote tank because of all those individual, wants and needs of the players.
Right.
But
And this happens too. I mean, Kirk Cousins, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's on the final year of his deal.
Yeah.
If not, he has 1 year left. I mean,
I think
so
he's
it's
on
such
the
a tough time to
final
have
year.
that.
Yeah, he's a free agent going into next year. And there
Having one of just the worst injury possible.
Yeah, and individually, he was having a very good season.
Yeah.
The Vikings obviously were doing so as a team, but him individually, statistically, was doing very well. So it sucks to be him.
Oh, and Aaron Rodgers on line 1 to see how. You guys see Aaron Rodgers already doing like a few like little 3-step drops and throwing the ball pregame, less than like 2
It's
months.
the ayahuasca.
Yeah, 2 months after that procedure that he had on his Achilles.
Like when we have these conversations about like a player getting injured, whether you mail it in, you have a very one-sided take of forgetting the current season, and you're always planning.
I'm always plotting.
You're always plotting. If you were a GM of a professional sports team, fans would fucking hate you.
Yeah. No,
you have
it'd be terrible.
absolutely
I'm
zero
the
care about
Sam
the
Hankey.
present.
I am the Sam Hankey of
You have zero care about the present, and
trust
it's like
the process.
Who can we get in the draft? Who can we get in the draft? And you're not looking at your current roster or care about what can happen this season. It's
Yeah.
like, what's next year look? What's next year look like? And it's
Because
never
to compare
guaranteed.
myself to Sam Hankey is not. That was his name, right? The 76ers GM.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who was just like constantly tanking. I mean, that
Trust
was his
the
whole
process.
strategy. And he was probably the most hated GM. So there you go. That's me there.
Look how that worked out for Philly.
Yeah. Well, I
great.
mean, eventually it did work out for them, and he just got none of the credit for it. So I will fall on that. We lost our locks of the week after we did get a $2. We were up to $32 after the end of the first window that we could have bought out on. And 0 for once again. Well, we went 1 for 3.
We went 2 for 3.
Oh, we went 2 for 3. No, that backdoor. Oh. There were some people who had.
We got him at 8.
We got him at 8. There were some people who had him at 10, I think.
Yeah.
And they covered.
I took him
9.
at 8.
You took him at 8.
Yeah. So that covered, and yours covered.
Right. Well, no.
Which
You
was-
had the Chiefs.
I had Baltimore.
I had the Chiefs.
Oh, you had the Chiefs.
yeah.
Okay, my bad. Okay, so you had there was that, right at the end of the game, there were a couple of like penalties that were called from the Cardinals game in which they were able to kick a field goal and they were able to cover the 10, which had a lot of people up in arms. Like you said, we got them at 8, so ours covered at 2 for 3. But then we had the Chiefs, which, you had Patrick Mahomes and his illness, and hey, he's never lost to a divisional opponent ever. He's thrown 29 straight games with a touchdown. That got snapped on Sunday. And then, you lose to a team in the Broncos, which has not looked very good all season.
No.
Technically, out of the 3 picks, I probably felt the safest with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And it's one thing to because the Chiefs have had to play games even without Patrick Mahomes and have Chad Henne step up and have to perform. And it's like, I could get maybe them not covering, but to lose the way they did, I mean, it was what was the score? 24-19.
No, 24-9.
Yeah, a double-digit win.
Oh, I was thinking they got to 19.
No, yeah, I mean, it was just brutal because, again, like Patrick Mahomes said, he started feeling bad Saturday night, and you're basically they had threatened a snow game. I think everyone thought it was going to be a snow game, but I mean, you're sick, feeling terrible, and you're supposed to like play at the best top level out in 29 degrees. Like, how are you going to do that, right? So
They would have been better off with a backup.
it was feeling so good. God, I was feeling good about that. I was ready to just celebrate
Who was
with
yours?
you guys. I had Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Minnesota covered that. And we got them at 1, and they were, up handily in
Chiefs
that game.
just fucked everything.
It
man.
was. I mean, a bunch of
Fuck
survivor
everything.
pools got killed. Obviously parlays. I usually do like a little like $5 like on all the heavy favorites, and it never cashes. But it felt like I think that was the only one that killed it. Was that one? So, and
RIP.
that's what's so frustrating about this season is to see games like that where you're just like, damn it, like. And then the backdoor covers with the Cardinals or whatever, where you see all of these things similar to the Rams game a few weeks back that I got screwed on for our locks of the weeks, where it's like, these guys clearly know what the betting line is. Like, how is it that you're going for field goals at the end of games? You can't do that with the time expiring. It just, how does this keep happening?
The frustrating thing is if you pick the Chiefs like everyone in the country did, I don't know if it would justify it if they just played like shit, but to find out later that Mahomes was sick,
yeah,
that doesn't
for
make
sure.
it better. It makes it worse for me. It's like if you knew you were sick, play Henny. You probably would have had a better chance with a backup, but if you just played like shit, then I probably, like me personally, I would understand that better than you sick 24 hours before the game and just forcing
I don't think
yourself
anyone
to play.
knew either that he was sick until after the game. So, that was annoying.
I saw this interesting stat comparison today that Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey has mirror image stats.
I saw that. Yeah, through the first 6 seasons or whatnot.
Rushing yards, passing yards, receptions, everything. But obviously the argument is the debate is Kamara's played more games because McCaffrey had sat out like a season and a half or something like that. But it was interesting. Well, that raised a question. I was curious what you guys thought. The MVP of the NFL usually goes to a quarterback, right? With the exception of Adrian Peterson in 2012. And you have to have like a monster season as a non-quarterback to take that trophy. If you, at this point of the season, which is 8 weeks, if you had to give the MVP trophy to a non-quarterback, would you give it to Tyreek Hill at 1,000 yards already?
Right.
Like approaching 2, or Christian McCaffrey? That's tough.
It is
That's
tough.
Super tough.
But the only reason I would give McCaffrey the edge is just because he's doing it running the ball and receiving. And I think that you can argue that just the running back position is a little bit more difficult than the wide receiver position. You're getting hit more consistently by bigger dudes, harder, close to the line. So for those reasons, I'd probably give the edge to McCaffrey.
Yeah, I think I agree with the McCaffrey side of things because, when I think of why is a team really successful, and for me, at least right now, I see Christian McCaffrey carrying the water a lot for that 49ers offense. But then when I look at the Dolphins offense, yes, Tyreek is explosive and he's getting by guys very easily. But I still kind of envision this as this is engineered by Mike McDaniel. And he's helping create those opportunities for Tyreek. In a way, I think that Christian McCaffrey is covering up for a lot of the offensive deficiencies maybe that Brock Purdy is lacking or making Brock Purdy look that much better. I think that Mike McDaniel is making Tyreek Hill look better despite how good Tyreek Hill is.
If you take either one out of their teams, who would do worse?
Oh, the 49ers for sure.
Yeah.
Because the Dolphins still have a number one receiver in Jalen Waddle. They still have a lot of weapons. Not to say that the 49ers don't, but I don't think that the 49ers are as strong of a team if they don't have a Christian McCaffrey.
So you both give it to McCaffrey?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Now,
But it's by a very slim margin.
But if we reach now, if this is based on records, for example, how close is McCaffrey to like a single season touchdown record versus a wide receiver who
Has eclipsed
2,000 yards?
Right.
yeah.
Like, how do you think the league would look at that? It's like, okay, McCaffrey has a touchdown record, or maybe one or two short of the single season touchdown record, and Tyreek's over 2,000 yards receiving. And then would they then question that by looking at, well, Adrian Peterson came close or beat the rushing record over 2,000 yards, and we gave it to him.
Right. And there's obviously one more game, so we have that we have to factor in. I mean, like, Tyreek's, whole idea is burning people and going deep. So, I mean, like, he's picking up chunk yards as he's going. I mean, he's getting 50, 60-yard catches.
Yeah, but he shouldn't be punished for that.
I know he shouldn't be punished.
That would be the
for
same
it.
way that you look at Steph and like, well, you're chucking up threes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for making them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and I think something to give Tyreek credit is to have such a formidable offense, and to have another guy like Jalen Waddle, who anywhere else would be a number one wide receiver, no questions asked, and to still be able to put up those types of numbers when the ball is being spread around the way it is very impressive.
Yeah, and they do have a good committee of people who are scoring. I mean, like, you had, before he got hurt, Devon Achane, who had 44 points in a game.
Mostert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mostert, who has been doing
Who's
really
their tight
well.
end there? It's not Gesicki anymore.
It's, who the hell is it? Oh, yeah, because that first thing I was thinking was Gesicki. Hold on.
Where's he at now? Where is he
he's
doing
at the Patriots? Yeah.
That's where he's doing the weird.
Yeah.
What do you call that dance?
Gritty.
The weird gritty.
Yeah, he threw that game-winning touchdown against the Bulls to Gesicki. The Bills. Sorry.
How did DeMar DeRozan do? Huh?
Okay, the reason why we don't know the answer to that is his name is Durham Smythe. So,
Oh, Durham.
Durham.
DS. It's funny you brought up Purdy.
Durham girl.
Was the Niners Sunday night game, or just sometime on Sunday?
No, they were the 1 o'clock window against the Bengals.
Whoever was doing
Chargers were the Sunday night game.
Oh,
last
that's right.
night.
Chargers Bears. Whoever was doing the announcing the Niners game made a really good point. Purdy, as good as he is, the reason he's not exposed, I think exposed is the wrong word. The reason he's struggling is because he relied so much on Debo.
Yeah.
Debo was kind of his out. So whenever he makes his reads and he doesn't see Kittle open or Ayuk or whoever, Debo was the guy running underneath, and he could always dump it to him.
Right. Cutting across.
The same way that
like
Mahomes
that.
has Kelsey. Like, he always have that one guy.
You have your safety.
And it made me realize what Justin Herbert, your beloved Justin Herbert, kind of owes his individual stats to. And it's Eckler.
Yeah, for sure.
Because without Eckler, I mean, just look at the season when Eckler went down week 2. Herbert was bad. Like, he outside of being able to throw to Keenan Allen, like that monster game that he had, and then Mike Williams goes down, he really had trouble finding people. And Eckler is his one out.
Oh, right. And I think that the strategy for the Bears on Sunday Night Football was like, we're going to give up the dinks and dunks, and it turned out that the dinks and dunks really hurt him.
Well, you can't, because Eckler's probably one of the top players in the league with yards after catch.
Exactly,
like, you give that
it was
5-yard catch,
miscalculation on
he is
their
fucking
part.
going.
Yeah, for sure. So they were like, I feel like they were, I think they talked about it on the broadcast too, where they were like, we're not going to give up the middle of the field, but we'll give up like the short yardage edges. But like those really started adding up after a while.
The thing that kind of because I do agree with you to an extent, Miguel, about, having Debo there as kind of your
crutch.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, then Brandon Ayuk is now your crutch, or George Kittle, or Christian McCaffrey. Like, you still have so much talent there, and it's not just one guy. It's 3 or 4 guys that you can go to. Like, I feel like you should be able to fill in that need. You know what I mean?
That's not inaccurate, but that's more of a coaching move.
Yeah.
The reason to me that point made sense is not talent. It's the position Debo plays, because they have Debo underneath all the time, where they can hand it off to him. He plays running back and he plays wide receiver, so he's not the guy going out the way Ayuk goes, or Kittle goes. He's always just kind of in the 5-10 yard range, and he is always an out for him. The same way that Eckler is. Yeah. Eckler's not running a fade. Eckler's always around there.
Yeah, the dump down guy.
Yeah.
So let's see. When we look at the rest of the week, and then I guess kind of coming back to that question that I was saying, when we look at, we're midway through the season, more or less, at this point, where you have the standings the way that they are. I mean, obviously the Panthers get their first win with the in that rookie bowl with Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. Now, it doesn't much matter what the Panthers do at this point because they don't have their draft pick. That draft pick belongs to the Bears. But, I mean, if you're looking at your worst teams right now, the Patriots at 2-6, the Colts at 3-5, the Raiders and Broncos at 3-5, the Commanders at 3-5, the Giants at 2-6, the Packers at 2-5, Bears at 2-6. I mean, I think that the Bears are just like the prime team to just continue sucking so bad because, I mean, they've got to see maybe not what they have in Tyson Bagent, but like how can they see themselves moving on from a Justin Fields type to where, they could potentially have the first 2 picks in the draft this upcoming season. And then you have the Arizona Cardinals, another one of those teams where they go, Caleb Williams wouldn't be so bad, depending on what happens with Kyler Murray when he returns in a couple weeks.
I don't know. I don't think Justin Fields has gotten his fair share of chances yet. I mean, they were winning games with him in there. Not pretty. They weren't like losing in a bad way with him.
I mean, they won one game with him.
They've won more than one.
I mean, they've won 2 games, and one of them was Tyson Bagent.
Yeah, they won 1 game with Fields.
Yeah, I mean, he's 1-5 as a starter so far this year. And I think that they're going to have to seriously, I mean, like, this is the final year of what they would have with him. They're going to have to make that decision. And
they're definitely going to decide to go for a Caleb Williams or a Drake May or something and then ruin the beginning of that person's career as well.
Right.
The Bears are a fraudulent franchise, and they, as far as historically, they haven't been able to produce a good quarterback in a long, long time.
Yeah, did you see that thing? Maybe you didn't see it because you were out yesterday, but they were talking about, like, the fact that the Chargers have had 3 quarterbacks since, like, the 90s, with one of those being a 1 game with Tyrod Taylor, and then he gets hurt in the second game, then Justin Herbert goes in, and then, obviously, Phillip Rivers. In that same period of time, 20 quarterbacks have gone through the Bears franchise.
Yeah, and so I definitely think, and personally, I think Fields is good. I think I've said previously in this season of our podcast that as soon as he gets to another organization, that'll really be the measuring stick for who is he as a quarterback in the NFL. Because I do think that he's talented, and I do think that he could have success, but it's just not going to happen at Chicago. So I do think they are gonna move on from him and probably go for a draft pick, but they're going to be able to get probably Drake May and Marvin Harrison from Ohio State. Yep. And if they're not able to put something together with those 2 guys and the trade, value that they can get from Justin Fields, because they'll be able to get somebody of value from that. Like, what more do you really need?
The weird thing about the Bears, though, is they have never had a star quarterback, I think, even before we were born. If you go back to the 85 Bears, the 85 Bears won the Super Bowl because of that defense.
Right.
Can you name the quarterback from that team?
Do you know the answer?
No.
Yeah.
Exactly. Who was the quarterback when Brian Urlacher was there?
I mean, you have
A mix-
Grossman, maybe?
So your best
Grossman
ones
and
have
Cutler?
been Cutler, Grossman, Trubisky. I mean,
Trubisky wasn't good.
but
he was
that's-
supposed to be good.
But that's
or
who
people
you've
were
had.
hoping he would be
So
good.
if you think of the last 2 or 3 decades, talent-wise, Justin Fields is probably the most talented quarterback, skill-wise.
Kyle Orton was good for them for a little bit.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think
says
that
a lot.
I think it's so important too. I mean, like you bring in a guy like Matt Eberflus to run a Justin Fields type. I just think that like a guy who has been in the NFL for so many decades to then lead that team in the way, it just feels like it's almost like a bit of like, what does he do with this fancy car type of a thing, right? A guy who is like so set in his ways in driving his like Honda Accord. No offense to my first adult car, a Honda Accord, 2004. Shout out.
You're the one throwing it under the bus.
No, but you know what I'm saying, though, right? Is that like he almost needed like a bit of a new age coach for a new age
that's
type
my
of
point.
a player.
In a very long time, this is probably your most skilled quarterback. So what if getting rid of him isn't the answer? What if putting people around him, including a coaching staff who knows what to do with him, is the answer?
Right, but they're not going to do that. So, I mean, like, at this point, they've said we feel like we know what we have because we've seen this in 4 years. I mean, it's kind of what happened, why I feel like Marcus Mariota's career was a little bit shaky as well, is because, like, early on, you know, he had Ken Wisenhunt. Ken Wisenhunt gets fired, and then they bring in Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel being a defensive-minded guy, it was just kind of like competing styles in a way. And so to bring that back to the Justin Fields type, he's had the 3 years there, and I feel like at this point, I think he's still an NFL quarterback. I think he's still a starter. And I think that he could do very well in this type of a thing. But, like, at this point, I think that what they'll do is they'll go back to the well because they have the draft picks. They have the ability to fire a coach. I mean, we've all heard that report about whether or not Lincoln Riley would follow Caleb Williams to the pros and all that other stuff. People have their
Harbaugh
opinions
will
on
be available.
Lincoln Riley as well. Yeah, we're going to talk about Harbaugh here in a second. But, yeah, I think that, like, Justin Fields, I would probably place the bet that this would be his final season.
Yeah.
Not in the NFL, but at the Bears.
It's just unfortunate because you look at people that could replace him. I mean, how much different is Caleb Williams than Justin Fields?
Not a lot different. And I
Justin
totally
Fields
agree.
killed it in college. Absolutely murdered it in college.
And
Same
I
with
don't
Caleb
think
Williams is.
it doesn't matter the talent or the name or whoever comes in. It's the organization. You know, you can have these top tier number 1 caliber quarterbacks, but if you bring them to an organization where they're not going to, you know, build around them and create an organization or at least an offense that
a winning culture.
you know is going to, you know, benefit their skills and abilities,
Right.
then it's not going to work out. We've talked about this before, where it's like, do you have an organization that molds to the talent that they have?
Mike McDaniels.
Yeah, or do you have
Mike McDaniel.
or do you have, you know, a culture of, hey, you need to change to fit our way of doing
Exactly.
things? And I think the Bears are definitely the latter.
Absolutely, I totally agree. I mean, like, you'll see the Kyle Shanahans adapt. You'll see the Mike McDaniel adapt. You'll see all kinds of coaches that will adapt. I mean, like Nick Sirianni as well.
Mm-hmm. You can imagine if Andy Reid and
Andy Reid, for sure.
Andy Reid got somebody like Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields would flourish.
Oh, absolutely.
He would
100%.
absolutely fucking kill it in the league.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that, like, this person is maybe like a quote-unquote system quarterback. They just need a coach that is like that is as adaptable with anything, right? Where it's like, oh, you're going to fit my style. It doesn't work like that. It
Yeah.
never does.
Yeah.
Or at least very rarely does. And especially with your biggest impact players, you need to set these guys up based on their best skill sets and expecting them to shift to you like they got their millions of dollars by playing the way that they play.
Yeah.
And it's your job as a coach to, like, this is your fault. Like, I mean, there's the whole quote about like generals will say this or whatever. It's like, if my team succeeds, it's their fault, right? It's their good job. If they fail, it's my fault.
Yeah.
And it's just like always the good, like, accountability to do. And I think that, we haven't seen the best of a guy like Justin Fields.
And I think a great example of that was earlier this season. Justin Fields came, he was asked during a press conference or in the locker room about coaching, and he was like, maybe my play is due to coaching. We'll have to see and figure that out. And then the next day he comes into a press conference and it was like, oh, no, it's not the coaching. It's my fault. I need to be responsible.
Right.
And that attitude change came from somebody probably in the coaching staff who came to him and was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You're talking shit on us. You need to be more responsible. And I think
It's not what leaders talk like.
yeah. You need to – I think if you hear a player say that, you should take a step back and be like, okay, maybe we do need to make some changes. Accept the constructive criticism. Don't harp back on them and say, no, it's your fault. You need to take credit. Go out there and tell them.
The real leader's way of thinking, like you mentioned, where like coaches take accountability, like, you get the credit, but I take the fault. I take the blame if we lose. That is the exact same way that I look at Sean Payton, how I had a lot of respect for him in New Orleans and zero respect since he took over Denver.
Yeah, no,
like
for sure.
you're throwing your players under the bus, like
Old
on
coaches.
a post-game interview. Like, no. I've always looked at him as one of the really good coaches in the history of the league. And then he takes over Denver, and
he's lost
as
a
much as
lot
I
of
don't
respect
like
since
Russell
going to
Wilson, like,
Denver.
you don't talk about your quarterback like that. You don't talk about this person like that.
Yeah, and no matter how much Russell Wilson has, degraded in his play, he's still a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And that says something. Obviously, there's a coach out there who's able to take his skill and have success with it, and it sounds like you're failing. And if you come out and have that kind of attitude, I totally agree with you. It's like, dude, you're losing all respect.
Losing all respect. And I wonder if you guys think, I'm going to shift to college because I think that was actually a pretty good segue. I'm wondering how you guys feel about what Coach Prime said over the weekend. Obviously, they've lost 4 of 5 games now. There's one quote that's gotten a lot of attention, and it was after their most recent loss this past weekend. He was asked about, big picture, what needs to happen and wherein lies the problem. And he very much said the quiet part out loud, and I wanted to get your guys' take on him saying this.
Really do.
Coach, you mentioned the coaching aspect of it as well.
Yes, sir.
Specifically with the offensive line, I mean, what has to improve in that aspect besides from
The line has to improve. It ain't no aspect. The line has to improve.
Coach, we talked about run-pass balance a lot.
Yeah.
I think it was up until that last drive, you had maybe 7 carries with running backs compared to like 34 passes.
Yeah.
How much of that is a struggle for you guys right now?
Well, it's a struggle to run the ball. It's a struggle to run the ball. And we got to figure that out because now you're one-dimensional, and it's easy to stop a team when they're one-dimensional, and that's who we are at this point in time.
Could follow up on that? Could being able to commit to that, you talked about one.
Commit to what?
Running the ball. Could that help?
I think we committed to it on a first down, and we was 2nd and 15. Right. Those are the type of things you don't want to do and get behind the 8 ball. First downs are so vital. First downs are everything. I mean, first downs are, when we held them statistically on first downs, it was hard for them to move the ball as well. And when we're getting negative yards on first down, that's a tremendous loss. Because now you're going to throw the ball on second down, and they're calling their defenses pertaining to that loss.
I just asked that in terms of the big picture, trying to keep Shador upright, healthy, and overall.
The big picture, you go get new linemen. That's the picture, and I'm going to paint it perfectly.
The big picture is you go get new linemen. I'll paint it perfectly. an interesting thing to say when you are now hoping that line will continue to keep your son upright for the next 5 or 6 games.
I don't want to say this as like a cop out for Prime, because I clearly like him.
Yeah.
I think because of the way he coaches and how different he is, I don't view this as what we just talked about as throwing people under the bus. Because he never said once, outside of, get new linemen, it was a we. Like, we need to improve. We need to figure this out. But the way he coaches, this is how he talks to those kids in the locker room.
Right.
He's super tough. When it's like the lineman needs to improve, I think he addresses the entire unit as a team, but that's probably because of the way he coaches. That's what he feels like, knowing that team, knowing the kids, knowing the linemen. That might be how they respond.
You think
it's
that
not
they'll
an
respond though?
I don't know, but I'm saying I don't see it as I'm not making an excuse for him. I feel like because of the way he coaches, that might be like the way he gets those kids to respond.
And to be honest, football is a next man up league. And if you don't have the guys to go, and step up and to do what's sufficient to win football games, at some point you're going to get replaced. That's just the fact of the matter. And obviously he's had a ton of success hitting the transfer portal. He's not going to have any issues. I just saw that he signed a 5-star quarterback to Colorado to come and play in 2025. He's not going to have problems getting new guys. And at some point that's the answer. They are 6-7 games into the season at this point. And that is by far their number one issue. They have become a one-dimensional team. They aren't very strong on the offensive line. Thank God his son is an impressive quarterback, but he has, to his point, he has the most passing yards of anyone in college football, and that, isn't always a good thing. You have to be able to run the ball, and if you're not getting it done, then you get replaced. And that's the fact of the matter.
This isn't like a turn, like an opinion you're getting out of Deion Sanders because all of a sudden they're losing. This is how he came in.
Right.
He came in I'm bringing my Louis Vuitton bag, and if you can't handle the heat, you got to get out.
Well, right. Well,
so he's been consistent.
That's my question, though, in regards to kind of why I gave you that look about how is that going to motivate guys? Because guys have seen exactly what he has done. He's not giving them any false hope. None of those guys are going to be starters next year unless they whether they graduate or not. So I mean, whether or not this is going to motivate these guys to play better. No, he's legitimately going to go out and get new linemen. And so it's to say that now, right? It's I do think that that's throwing those guys very directly under the bus, whether or not we all know that that's the truth. And so that's why I don't think it's going to motivate those guys, because they have clearly seen that they're going to be replaced. That's not going to motivate them.
But at the end of the day, Pete, if this
they're not the guys.
Motivate them, then they're not the guys he wants.
That's
why he's doing
Either
that,
way, his step is towards improvement, whether it's the same guys or new guys.
Because the kind of guy that he wants in his locker room hears that and says,
I got to step up.
Fuck that. I'm going to prove him wrong. I'm going to work twice as hard. I'm going to hit the weight room. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make sure that I'm not included in that type of conversation anymore. And I think that's what he wants. He wants the guys who can hear that constructive criticism and be able to step up. And I think there's a difference, like for instance with we were just talking Sean Payton. He's being pretty specific about the people and players that he wants to see improve, and Russell Wilson and things of that nature. I think it's a different thing to say, hey, as an offensive line, as a group, we need to do better. And I think that's very easy to see. You know what I mean? With Russell Wilson, for instance, it's you can point at a lot of other things within that team and see a lot of fault on that Broncos team. I don't think it's as clear as day to say, oh, this is all Russell Wilson's fault. And it's kind of immature for Sean Payton to do so. Whereas with the Colorado Buffalo, their one weakness is their offensive line.
Yeah,
is the only thing that is really holding them back from being great.
Also, Pete, if you compare it, we transition into this from how we're talking about NFL coaches throwing players under the bus. But the difference between coaching a multi-million-dollar professional player, where you technically need to take a back seat and make sure, like I said, we all agree the success of that player comes from how you coach them. But these guys got to that level because they know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
The difference between coaching college kids is he needs to take that stance. That's why they've been successful.
And they've been pretty consistent, I will give you that, where they've had a good number of motivational speakers come in and basically talk about the minuscule chance that they will ever step foot on an NFL field anyways. They talk about like the numbers. It's like there's all of you here and here's the percentages and all that, and to try and like put things into perspective for them. So I mean, like, they do very much try and reality check their players all the time.
That's why I don't think this is going to be a shock to the lineman that he's calling out.
And one thing I'll say about Prime and this, and obviously I'm a fan of his and have been for a while, and this might come across as kind of cheesy, but it's like, that he's the type of coach who, it's not like he no longer cares about them as men, and he doesn't want them to succeed and be successful in their education and all those kinds of things. I'm sure he's supportive of all those kinds of things, where I think obviously it's a different nature in the NFL. Whereas like a Sean Payton, it's like, I'm sure he would love to tell Russell Wilson to just go fuck himself. You know what I mean? There's no care or concern, and obviously it's a different beast between college and NFL. I get that, but I think that at the end of the day, he's doing what is necessary for him to be good at his job. And if those guys can't step up and get it done after he's given them ample opportunity, this is the first time he's said anything that directly after several weeks of it being kind of a blinding issue in their offense. I don't see that as being as bad as what a Sean Payton is doing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Maybe that's contradictory, but I just don't see it the same.
Yeah, sorry, Pete. It's you wanted us to turn on Prime, and that was your goal, and it's just not going to happen.
Well, someone else who needs a bit of a reality check is Pat McAfee. On the college game day desk, they were at University of Utah this past weekend for the Oregon and Utah game. And we have played on this podcast before Pat McAfee, who really likes getting the crowd going. And so when it came down to picking between Oregon and Utah, Pat McAfee chose what he always does, and he decided to go with the crowd.
I had no idea what to expect whenever I came out here to Utah. And Coach Dan Lanning came onto this set today and was the first ever away team coach to ever show face and face the music in front of the Utah fans. So we're very grateful for that. The bodacious Bo Nix is certainly efficient, and he throws the rock all around. Their defense is phenomenal. But did you know that 29 out of the last 30 home games that happens right here at the University of Utah, the Utah Utes win. Cam Rising said yesterday, we don't lose at home, and today, they ain't losing. This place is going to be soaking in celebration this evening.
Soaking in
as the Utah Utes
celebration.
remain in the college football playoff conversation. 80 straight sellouts. A head coach that wears sleeveless, rides a Harley
That's Steve
Davidson.
Smith.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go. I can break this table right now. Football time. Go. Shout out to Utah. Shout out to the Muss. And shout out to Dan Lanning. I love you, but today you go home a loser.
And let's go ahead and check that score, Pat.
Oh, man.
Ya-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Oh, God. Peter, coming from you, it's just cringy. It's not a wild take for him to take Utah, first of all. All right, nobody sat here and thought Oregon was going to run away with the game.
Eat your words.
Eat
your words, Miguel.
You're not a real fan.
I said,
stop, it's cringy.
I said, and I quote, Oregon will handle Utah. Last week on this podcast to you, I said Oregon will handle.
Followed with, I'm more nervous about Utah than I am USC.
And I am. I think that the USC game will be closer than the one, or the Utah. Wait. I said I was more concerned about Utah than USC.
It's weird when you're lying, you can't keep track, huh?
Well, my point is that I think that Oregon will probably beat USC by more than this. I think USC is fraudulent, and I've said that from the beginning of the season.
Yeah, he scored 50 points, 50-49 there against good old Cal, interrupted by a bit of a protest. And I don't know if you guys saw that part, whole delay of the game, of the whole game there. So 35-6 manhandles Utah.
All I'm saying is no one saw this coming.
I think that's exactly correct. Yeah.
Yeah, 35.
Maybe
you
Braxton.
saw 35-6 coming.
I saw a double-digit
God,
win.
shut
that's
the
for
fuck
sure.
up. You never saw 35-6.
Yeah,
coming.
who predicts the score?
We try and do that all the time, actually. But
no one predicted
I
a
think
blowout win.
Yeah.
Okay, no one predicted
and it's very
a blowout
impressive.
win.
It was very
impressive. That Oregon defense is
especially
no joke.
the way that Utah, how this has flipped in Utah's favor in the past couple of years as well. I mean, Utah's done that both with Oregon and USC. They have been just this mighty silent power for so long, and it was interesting to see that. I mean, Oregon right back into the conversation of the college football playoff because of a game like this. Then you get Kansas, which beats Oklahoma. They tear down the goalpost and throw it into a lake.
That was awesome.
That was pretty sweet.
This is gonna be a roller coaster of emotions because we've addressed this so many times in the beginning of the season when we started this college football season. They are going to eat each other alive in the Pac-12. So to come out of the Pac-12 with, first of all, if you come out of the Pac-12 undefeated, I would be fucking impressed. If Washington doesn't lose one game, I'd be impressed. If you come out of the Pac-12 with one loss, I would be impressed. I'm picturing when it's all said and done, they all come out with 2. If I don't think it's a gimme for Oregon to lose one more, I don't think it's a gimme for Washington to lose at least one.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon State's lost 2. Utah's lost 2. Washington State came out hot, and all of a sudden they're 4-3 or 5-3 or some shit like that. They're all going to kill each other. They're going to kill each other's hopes for the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
And I think that this next week, Oregon, I don't think will have as much problems with Cal. I think that that November 18th game against Arizona State is probably the kiss of death.
This is what's
right?
dangerous though, because when we started the season, we're like, okay, Oregon, UW, Oregon State, Utah, they're all going to be fucking dangerous. The teams we didn't mention all of a sudden are coming out and playing well.
Yeah.
Stanford with that receiver that puts up 200 yards a game. Cal, Arizona State, where the fuck did you come from?
Right.
Arizona. The bottom of the barrel teams are now being competitive. So when you tell me that Oregon might not have a problem with Cal, it might be
They scored
flipped.
49 points.
So you're
against
like,
USC.
oh, Utah, Oregon will be competitive. It wasn't. Utah got blown out. Oregon should run away with Cal.
I didn't say run away. I just said that I don't think they will have as much trouble
But
as
it's
USC
getting
had.
weird at this point. We're like,
Yeah.
okay, what if Cal puts up 28 points against Oregon? It might be closer
and their
than you
offense
want.
stalls, right? Luckily, it's a home game.
The
so
one
it's
thing
not
that I've said this multiple times throughout this season, but the one thing that is just so much different about this Oregon team than a lot of other Oregon teams and a lot of other Pac-12 teams that have had success is they have an SEC-style defense. Dan Lanning has created this kind of new culture in their defense where they have these big SEC dudes up front who are able to keep teams like a Utah to 6 points. And that's why I have so much confidence, especially going into a game like Cal, where it's just they're not going to be able to score points like they usually would against a USC whose defense has been pretty fraudulent this whole year, or any other team.
That's very high praise. To have an Oregon offense with Bo Nix and Bucky and Troy Franklin to be able to move the ball the way they do, and you're saying they have a very, very good SEC-like defense, do you see them making it to the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I think Washington and Oregon have both a pretty equal chance to make it to the playoffs.
Would you have enough confidence to take Oregon against the field to make it in the top 4?
The Pac-12 field, you mean?
Just the field, just to make it in the top 4, to go past Washington and Florida State and whoever else, like whoever's sitting in 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, I mean, like barring, if Oregon and Washington both win out and then meet in the Pac-12 championship, I think the winner of that is going to the playoff.
How confident are you with Oregon making it to the top 4 as they sit right now?
I mean, it really comes down to, I think it comes down to 2 games, in my opinion. It comes down to Oregon State, the Civil War game. I think that they're gonna that will probably be their most difficult game so far, outside of Washington. Obviously, it'll be their most difficult Pac-12 in-conference game is against Oregon State, because as we know, Oregon State has a team unlike they've had in a very long time. They also have a very good defense, but I mean, I think that regardless, there will be a Pac-12 team in the playoff. I do think that, but I really just think it comes down to that Oregon State game, and if they beat them, then the Pac-12 championship against Washington.
Right, I think too. Obviously, you're catching USC at a time where if you beat them, you're beating them as a top 25 team, not a top 10 team, which is a bit,
Yeah,
it's not. It doesn't look as fancy as when they received their first loss of the year to Notre Dame.
And they haven't been playing great, obviously.
Sure.
So I agree with you. It's not as not as fancy for sure.
Yeah, if it happens, right? It's still like, oh, great, like you beat this team, but it's a little bit different.
Go ahead.
I
do want to say, I'm also not forgetting about the fact that we could very easily, like we have done in many seasons in the past, lose to an Arizona State, lose to a Cal. But I think that it's way less likely for that to happen this year with the team that Oregon has than it has been in previous years.
When you look at this week's slate of college games, there are not a ton of top 25 direct matchups. You have, who was it? Kansas State and Texas. 7 versus 25, but then Georgia versus number 14, Missouri. But you look at kind of up and down. There's not like terrible games. Oklahoma against Oklahoma State. You've got that rivalry game. But this is one of those ones where you go, is this a trap week, right? Obviously the Washington USC game is a top 25 matchup. Alabama LSU this week. I kind of forgot about that matchup. That'll be good. But, if you look kind of up and down at other top 25 matchups, you think, hey, maybe this is a nice little easy week.
Beginning of November are absolute trap weeks in college football. It is absolutely a trap week because what happens is you are getting to the second half or beyond the second half of the season where you're heading into the rivalry games and then bowl games. And you have maybe fatigue setting in.
Right. You've just had a couple of really tough opponents.
You
want to breathe a little bit.
Yeah, and this is around the time that an Oregon, a tough Oregon team has lost to a Stanford, has lost to an Arizona. A top 4 team drops a game, usually first 2 weeks of November.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where you kind of start separating that top 4, and usually 2 of that sticks.
Yeah.
You know who the 2 is going to be. Right now, Ohio State and Michigan, like Michigan had a bye, but Ohio State's not a lock in there. Florida State is up there. Washington's not a lock. Georgia, because of the way they've been winning so fucking ugly this season,
they finally won.
I wasn't a believer
this past week.
This game, they didn't have Brock Bowers, who arguably is one of the best college football players this season, and they handled them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, Georgia at 8-0 is the number 1 team, is for real. And, without their best player, they could run away with this. And what, they've won 24 games in a row without losing a game since last season. I think they're definitely a lock to be up there. But
if you're a college football playoff team, you will have lost all of your games by now.
Yeah.
I think that it is so hard unless you are that 2-3 Michigan, Ohio State that plays down to a wire type of a game where you potentially say, could this have another look? But if you're a college football playoff team, your losses have already happened. And if you lose right now, it's tough to come back from.
I
it.
agree.
It weighs a lot.
There will definitely be a Pac-12 team in the top 4 unless they all lose more than one. I think you cannot you can't deny a one-loss Pac-12 team.
Yeah.
I think if you came down to Florida State versus Washington or Oregon, you have to choose the Pac-12 team to go in the top 4.
Sure.
But any of these fucks lose 2, there's not going to be a single Pac-12 team. And no matter how competitive it
if
is,
you have a 2-loss
there's
Pac-12,
not going to be a 2-loss Pac-12 team.
Yeah,
even though it's
tough.
probably the most competitive conference this season.
Really
You can't let that happen.
Yeah, and I don't think this will happen. I think that Washington is a very sound team, and USC is not. But if for some reason Washington were to lose to USC this week, that would make that Pac-12 championship game worth a lot.
The tough thing with these rivalry games, though, is Washington State always plays Washington tough. Oregon State always plays Oregon tough. So you have these games before the Pac-12 championship. You could easily screw yourself by fucking one of them up. So,
as a unbiased football analyst,
I'm the one unbiased analyst here.
Not me.
Do you also feel that when you watch this Oregon team that it feels a little bit different, especially on the defensive side of the ball?
No.
No?
No, I don't feel, and it's not a knock. It's not a knock. I'm not saying this as a knock because I hate Oregon. I'm saying I've not seen anything different from the other talented teams. I've not seen anything different than the Justin Herbert Rose Bowl team. I've not seen any different than a EFO-led defense from Oregon. I think I get what you're focusing on. It's Lanning, Southern guy, making it in the SEC, but they've had, the defense they had with Mario was not a bad defense. That was a pretty good fucking defense. With EFO and this is going back, Armstead, any of these guys, those were monster defenses. Buckner isn't small, Armstead isn't small. They had a Jason Taylor type defensive end in those teams. Those teams were fucking scary. For that defense. I'm saying I'm not seeing anything different from this current Oregon defense than I've seen in the past.
Okay.
And to say in offense, it's even more so because they have 2 stars that Bo Nix gets the ball to. It's Troy Franklin and Bucky.
And James Jackson?
Yeah.
James Jordan.
James
Jordan. But yeah, Travis Dye was incredible for them.
Yeah.
The fucking hyphenated last name, Brooks James, was very good for them. If we're not going back to the Chip era, they've had very talented track stars on that team.
Yeah.
So I'm not seeing anything different. The one thing I'm seeing that's different is they have a 45-year-old quarterback who's so fucking experienced, who he has seen every scheme in college football playing in the SEC and playing in the Pac-12. That gives him such a unique advantage playing against Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, and now he's playing in the Pac-12, and you can see kind of how calm and easy it is for him to be back there.
Right.
That is the biggest difference compared to even a great quarterback like Mariota and Herbert in college.
Yeah. And having the 2 running backs in the backfield, rotating through, feels like the LaMichael James, Kenyon Barner type. Again, you're talking about that experience, but I agree with Braxton when it comes to this type of defense because it's a gritty defense, but it's also quick, and it's also it's recruited with that SEC mind that hasn't really had that mentality before. And you've always had this they're always thinking about how quick can our defense be, not how, and I feel that grit
not
that
hard.
I don't want to take away anything from this defense. Like I said, I just don't see anything unique because if you're talking about one of the great SEC defenses, you would be giving up 10 points a game. this is the same defense who gave up 30-something against Texas Tech and 36 against Washington. So I think it's easy to focus on when they have a dominant game against Utah.
It's not exactly a Georgia defense.
You know, it's like it's still a little bit different because you're not getting the same recruits. And who knows, maybe in 3 or 4 years, Lanning's still there and he's pulling Georgia dudes, he's pulling Alabama dudes, and that defense could look like a fucking LSU who gives up 3 points a game.
Yeah.
But I've seen him give up 30 against a 2-4 Texas Tech, against Washington, who's a pretty good team. But I've not seen anything different compared to other Oregon defenses.
I guess I'm just not used to having, like, usually we have the Armstead or Buckner. We have the one guy on the defensive line who's, like, as good or an SEC style player. And now we have 3, you know what I mean? And also our linebacking core usually, like you said, focus much more on speed and agility, where that front 7 is much more hard-nosed than a typical Oregon defense.
This Oregon defense, the front line is way above average.
Yeah.
But their corners get burned.
Their
corners get fucking burned. I mean, Penix exposed the shit out of them in their corners. They don't have, but Oregon has had that defense where the front line is getting ran over, but their safeties and their secondary have been fucking
even against
great.
Washington State, they got a little bit loose there too. I saw that, and I agree with you to that extent. But I mean, you know,
it's an exciting team though. I haven't been I'm always excited for Oregon football. Don't get me wrong, but there's something about this year that's just feels a little bit differently, and obviously is going to break my heart even more at the end of all this. But I just really feel good about this team.
Time will tell.
And they are playing really well. I love it.
Don't lose to ASU. That's embarrassing.
That is embarrassing.
Well, Braxton, how do you feel
Don't
about
lose
this
to Kenny
week's
Dillingham.
locks of the week?
Scared.
Someone's got to pick the winner between the Giants and the Raiders.
We're not touching that. Please, to God, don't touch that game.
Well, can we? Oh, you know what we could do is we could pick the under 38.5 of that game. You want to touch that?
The Giants Raiders? No, because watch Devontae Adams go off for fucking 4 tugs. I got mine.
All right, 1 second before we get into that.
Mine goes in the same line as your Tampa Bay bet, but I'm pretty confident with this team.
Okay.
Especially because the team that they're playing lost one of his favorite receivers to a torn ACL this week.
Okay.
I'm taking the Commanders' money line at plus 136 against the Patriots.
Oh, boy. Commanders at plus 136. Home dogs, or road dogs. I guess that makes sense.
No Kendrick Bourne.
No Kendrick Bourne.
No Kendrick Bourne. He's been throwing the Kendrick Bourne. And Washington, I know they play Philly pretty close every time. They lost to Philly, but Sam Howell just went off for 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, sure did. My hope is that, there were reports, and again, this will bear out once we get to the trade deadline. Apparently, the Commanders were shopping good old Chase Young and all those guys too. Which
has Chase Young even played this season?
Yeah, he's played almost the entire season.
Yeah.
The thing that we haven't noticed him playing is the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you guys watched the Philly Commanders game, and you know how Commanders always play him really close. Did you see the tush push fake?
Yeah,
that was great.
That was great.
That was good. It was the perfect time for that
to
too.
Swift. Yeah,
perfect time for that. My lock of the week this week, 3-point road favorites, but I'm going to go with just the money line. The Chargers. I'm going to pick my Chargers to beat the New York Jets at minus 155 on Monday Night Football.
Oh, why are the Cardinals at plus 8? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Because they could cover.
Because the Cardinals, they found a way to cover these really crappy games.
Did they just lose another player?
All right, fuck it. I'm going to take the Cardinals plus 8. Unless there's something that we're missing here that seems like way too big of a spread.
Did the Cardinals lose a player? Did anyone get hurt?
All right. We're doing it. I'm not. That is at plus 641. $30 pays $222.36. Again, Commanders plus 136, Chargers minus 155, Cardinals plus 8 and minus 110.
So ours is money line. His is spread.
His is the spread.
Cardinals spread. Chargers. Commanders.
Let's
So
if you're following these picks, pick 2 of those to lose.
Yep, that's how it goes.
1 to hit.
Yep.
Or 1 to lose and 2 to hit. You just got to figure that out on your own.
It's called a round robin.
Or all 3.
Yeah, round robin it.
Round robin us, yeah.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. You will be fine. Actually, don't do that. Tried to do that on tight end day. No one cared.
It's probably not great to address. How much money have we lost? 7 weeks?
Yeah.
$210?
We'd be $8 in the hole.
$70 each.
So $210.
Yeah.
Plus this, we're at $240.
$240.
Yeah, so we'd be down 18.
And we stand to win $220.
Yeah.
$222.
Yeah. We're going to do it. Mark my words.
We're going to do it.
We're going to go.
We're going to get 3 picks correct. We could do 3 correctly,
honestly,
right? It's pretty magnificent.
We're going to go 1-16. We're going to win the last regular season week.
Do we get the first pick in the NFL draft?
Yeah, I hope so. You know, it really just shows how hard it is to win a parlay.
It is, yeah.
Oh, does it? There's a guy in jail that wins $20,000, dude.
Yeah, unless you're in jail.
I mean, he's fighting for his life, man.
He is indeed.
All right.
So are we.
We're just going to get to the last 5 weeks, and if we still haven't won, we got to up this to 20 each to really get some money back.
We do. We got to start doubling it up.
Definitely.
Hey, win all your money back in 1 week, 50 each.
Yes.
$150.
If we
Sign
feel really
me up.
confident about it, we might as well.
Hey, there's going to be
felt really confident.
There's going to be a week 15
I feel terrible
and a
about
week
this
16 that the entire Chiefs will sit out. The Eagles will sit out. Might be easier to hit around that time.
Yeah, we're going to get fucked.
We're going to get so screwed.
Clear eyes?
Full hearts.
Can't lose.